Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wasian. I'm Adrian,
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leo.
and in today's podcast, we'll be looking at the short story The Knife Face Up in Chapter 19 of A Thousand Splendid Suns.
Specifically, in this episode, we will be introducing and focusing on the theme of despair, what it means, exploring examples from the two books, discussing how this theme connects to meaning, the world around us, and including our own lives. But first, before we begin our podcast, we would like to shout out our main sponsor, Leo in Media. Make sure to book Leo for sports, portraits, and events, because when you and your family eventually dies, which will happen, you don't want the funeral photos to be chopped.
Oh my god.
Before we get into our neighbors,
It's only been 50 seconds.
These PA announcements have been really distracting our podcast today, hasn't it?
yes, it has.
I hate this.
Before we get into specific characters or events, it's important to really understand what this theme is and why it matters. Despair is one of those emotions that almost everyone experiences at some point, whether it's caused by loss, failure, or feeling completely hopeless.
In literature, despair often shows up during moments when characters feel trapped or powerless, and both of these texts explore that feeling in different and powerful ways.
The word despair is defined as the complete loss or absence of hope. It's more than just being sad or disappointed. It's the feeling that nothing will get better, no matter what you do.
This can relate to us when we place faith in something, whether it's a goal, a relationship, or even a belief, and things don't turn out the way we expected it to be.
When we try our hardest to pursue something, we can be met with constant challenges and unexpected events that can influence our outcome, and that barrier can slowly fade hope away.
A clear example of this is in A Thousand Splendid Suns is Fariba, whose sons went to war and later eventually perished. After their deaths, she becomes deeply distressed, depressed, emotionally distant, and completely overwhelmed by grief, showing how despair can take over someone's life.
In some instances, we experience despair ourselves, such as when we lose a family member, causing someone to feel helpless and disconnected. Other times, despair can come from other things that seem smaller but still feel overwhelming, like receiving a harsh grade after working hard on an essay, or feeling alone when facing a difficult challenge.
These moments may not seem extreme, but they help us understand the emotion on a personal level. Despair can make people feel struck, isolated, or unsure what to do next, which is why it's such a powerful theme in literature. Understanding how despair works in real life makes it easier to see how it affects the characters in these stories.
With that understanding in mind, we can now take a closer look at how despair shifts the characters in the text and influences their decisions, actions, and even their outcomes. So now, with that, let's move on to Kayla and how this theme impacts them throughout the two stories.
First, a word from our next sponsor. Have you ever felt so overwhelmed by life that you just want to give up? Well, look no further than BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a therapy platform that is completely online. No awkward moments, simple text, group therapy, or a one-on-one conversation with a licensed therapist. BetterHelp is so generous that it allowed us to give us 10% off their full plan that only costs $10,000. Make sure you use code WASIAN at checkout, and thank you for supporting mental health and the podcast.
You really think that $10,000 isn't a lot?
But tell me to read the script exactly or we wouldn't get the money.
But why?
I don't know, man.
Okay, shifting back to the topic, the loss of people can't...
The PA system would stop.
Can you be quiet, Dr. Salazar? Thank you. Shifting back to the topic, the loss of people can affect people mentally and how they act towards other people.
Attention students, just a reminder, buses are here.
I don't take the
Oh
bus.
my God.
At the start of the chapter,
The school buses are out front. They will be arriving. They will be
we
leaving
have to
at
do
one
it
No, no, we
again.
don't.
I'm sorry,
We
we have to
don't.
do it again.
No, we don't.
Yes,
It
we do.
begins... No, this is perfect because this takes up time. It begins with Layla's family finding out that her brothers have died, leading to Mammy lashing out towards everyone else and wanting to be by herself in despair.
When Lila offers Mommy some water, Mommy doesn't respond, showing that her mental state was damaged severely. This can be supported when Fariba speaks to Lila about all the minutes, all the hours, and days and weeks and months and years waiting, and she feels like someone's stepping on her heart.
These feelings perfectly capture her overwhelming despair and physical manifestation of grief and The tone here is one of complete exhaustion and hopelessness, establishing a somber mood.
This idea is reinforced when Lila reflects that Mommy lived in a world of her own, when Lila was barely visible. This quote shows how Fariba's despair causes her to emotionally disappear from her daughter's life.
The word barely visible suggests that Lila feels insignificant, overlooked, emphasizing how despair doesn't just affect the person suffering, but also deeply harms the people around them.
This moment's tone is distant and emotionally hollow, and the mood creates loneliness and neglect.
Despair can also be seen in the night face-up, when despair and trauma similarly overwhelm the protagonist's mental state after the motorcycle accident. Protagonist clings to the fake reality, blinking between his reality and his dream.
As the story progresses and the protagonist falls deeper and deeper into despair, he's in his own reality for longer periods of time.
After he woke up, he, quote, detached himself almost physically from the final scene of the nightmare, which could allude to an attempt to detach himself from reality, almost like what Mammy did when she was in despair.
Like Mammy, he withdrew from his suffering and was unable to escape the emotional and physiological weight of reality.
When he finally comes to terms with his own reality, he falls deeper into despair, thinking of the people that surround him dying and realizing that he was next and it would all be over. As Cortazar states, he thought of his friends filling up the other dungeons and of those already walking up the stairs of the sacrifice.
He knew that if they were already going first, then he would next be gone.
To add on to this, Cortazar writes that the protagonist feels the cold of fear, realizing that the reality he was trying to avoid was unavoidable.
The word cold suggests numbness rather than panic, showing that despair has replaced fear. At this point, he no longer fights back because hope has completely disappeared.
Is that a nice Coca-Cola, Kayla?
Very much so.
Are you even supposed to say this? Because we're sponsored by people.
It's just a Coke.
Yeah, she's actually drinking water. Well, anyways, the tone here is calm but unsettling, and the mood is created through inevitability.
Wow, that was a great analysis to these two texts because it connects perfectly to our next sponsor, Metabrain Chip Implants. Have you ever wanted to run away from your life's troubles and despair and escape from your immediate death? Well, tell me too. Oh, me too. Metabrain Chip Implants will make the pain go away. Just one simple surgery and it's done. Payments can be made as little as 10 DNA extractions each month. Go to mentalbrainimplants.com.
I thought it's
AIbrainimplants.com.
It's really interesting how our sponsors are able to perfectly connect with the conversation of the episode. How much money do we make from them again?
We're actually paid out by... What is that word?
APAC.
APAC to these sponsorships.
Anyways, shifting back to the topic of despair, Thousand Spun and Sons powerfully illustrates how a situation in the book creates meaning to despair.
What do you mean they're blackmailing us?
Are we blackmailing
Us? Like, as in all of us, or just you?
Maybe it's just him.
I don't
It's
know.
just him. Maybe he was on a certain island. Anyways, this is depicted through the tragedy of Layla's brothers dying at war, an event that devastates her mother, Fariba. Before their deaths, Fariba is portrayed as hopeful and politically passionate. And she is also deeply invested in her children's futures, seen through Layla's commitment to school.
Right. However, when news of her brother's death, her mother completely loses hope. Fariba's grief transforms into despair. She completely abandons her duty as mother to Lila, more focused on the despair that she feels towards her lost son, making her emotionally withdraw from the world around her. The idea of this despair is it's dangerous.
The danger of Fariba's despair lies in how it prevents her from fulfilling her role as a parent. Her actions damage Lila's emotional development. Because of Fariba's grief, she is unable to provide Lila with emotional security or guidance when Lila needs it the most. Instead of processing her loss in a healthy way, Fariba allows despair to define her identity.
This emotional absence teaches Layla that her needs are less important than her brother's memory, which leads to a feeling of isolation, abandonment, and anxiety.
Yes, and Phoebus' despair creates a harmful environment where helplessness becomes normalized. Lila grows up witnessing a parent who has lost all motivation to live fully, which affects how she understands love, resilience, and self-worth. The scene shows us that despair does not remain confined to one person. It spreads and influences those nearby, shaping their emotional outlook and relationships.
Through Fariba, the novel warns that unresolved despair can silently harm others, especially children, by depriving them of stability, affection, and hope.
Moving towards the night face up, despair is portrayed in a much more immediate and physical way. The main character in his real life is depicted running for his own life, desperately trying to escape from the Aztecs long enough for the rituals to be over.
Throughout the story, he clings to hope by running, hiding, and resisting capture, being driven by the instinct to survive. He is immensely scared, but longs. Stop it! But long as he believes escape is possible, he continues to fight. However, once he's captured and brought to the altar, his mental state.
When he realizes that escape is impossible, despair completely washes over him, and he gives up. At this moment, his struggle ends, not because of physical exhaustion, but because of despair. Cortazar shows that despair can be more powerful than fear, as it removes the will to resist. Have you ever wanted a slick ride to run away from the pursuers on foot? Buy a Honda Civic today.
Where did that come from? That's not
The links in the description. Continually text The Night Face Up and A Thousand Splendid Suns both entrap the protagonist in sort of a mental imprisonment. Mammy's grief over the death of her sons trap her into complete isolation in A Thousand Splendid Suns.
Correct. And building off of that, disease thinks that Mommy, again, didn't show up like she's supposed to. This can show how Mommy couldn't show up for the one of her children when two of them were dead. This highlights the despair that she's going through and her imprisonment, which is preventing her from doing her job as a parent.
That is right. And continually, in The Night Face Up, the protagonist is literally put in a mental prison in which he believes is reality. The term ignorance is bliss can definitely be put to use here.
The protagonist, as stated earlier in The Night Face Up, was sort of in a state of switching between dream and reality, with the dream being a prison for the protagonist, which was him trying to stay out of reality by shifting back to the dream.
So you're saying that The Night Face Up and A Thousand Splendid Suns are both also connected through the theme of imprisonment.
That's correct, Kayla. And this prison may be represented in different ways, but the general idea stays the same.
That's correct. However, these texts highlight how despair alters the human mind in completely different ways. This is this is able to be very important in our lives because it really represents how despair makes a huge shift in one's mental state. This shows how despair can influence a person's relationship and actions towards other people or relatives, and how it influences a person's mentality to give up before their fate is finalized.
So after looking at both A Thousand Splendid Suns and The Night Face Up, it becomes clear that despair is not just a passing emotion or a single emotion of sadness. Instead, it's something that slowly reshapes the way the characters think, act, and see the world around them.
In both texts, despair traps characters in different ways. For Mammy, it's a long-term emotional imprisonment caused by grief and loss, while in The Night Face Up, despair happens suddenly, overwhelming the protagonist the moment he realizes escape is impossible.
Even though these experiences are completely different, they led to the same outcome: isolation, loss of control, and the feeling that hope no longer exists. This shows that despair doesn't look the same for everyone, but its effects are equally powerful.
Understanding how despair operated in both stories, we're able to better understand why authors chose to explore this theme. Despair reveals vulnerability, exposes emotional limits, and forces characters to confront uncontrollable realities.
With this understanding in mind, we can now sit back from the text and reflection on what these portrayals of despair mean beyond literature, and why this theme continues to matter in our own lives.
Well, everyone, that concludes our end of this podcast. I hope you enjoyed our analysis of 1,000 Splendid Suns and The Night Face Up.
I'm Adrian.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Leo.
And make sure to tune in for the next episode of Wasian.
The perfect mix of white and Asian. See you guys soon.
Goodbye.